Over the past 60 years of the NBA, the most high prospects we've seen are 1. LeBron James, 2. Kareem, and 3. Victor Wembanyama. And looking at each LeBron and Kareem's tenures, which span nearly 40 years combined, during those time periods, there were numerous players dubbed the next one up or the second coming. And most of the times the media, sometimes fans, inflated these guys to just unreal expectations. And while some of those players had all-star careers, even Hall of Fame careers, very few of them lived up to the bold predictions. And the most recent example of this, sadly, is Zion Williamson. As coming in the 2019 draft, Zion was dubbed LeBron James 2.0. And to say Zion's NBA career to this point hasn't been a disappointment is the understatement of the century. I won't call him a bust, but at the very least, he's been very disappointing. Now, looking at Victor Wembanyama, the press he's gotten like Zion, everyone before him, has been 99.9% positive, and for good reason. If you watch this guy's tape, watch some of his games, he's like an alien on the court, shooting threes, lightning quick, between the leg dribbles, crossovers. At 7'5", not even being 21 years old, it's something we've never seen from a basketball player going into the NBA. And saying Wembanyama is one of the best prospects of all time, has some of the best tape coming into the NBA I've ever seen, it's not the hottest take in the world. Now, with that being said, I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't say Victor. For me personally, there's some glaring marks that make me pretty nervous. The biggest one being, he's 7'5" and super lanky. Now this right here is a double-edged sword, because Victor being 7'5", being so athletic, makes him a great prospect. But looking at NBA history, the 7-footers, 7'3", 7'2", those guys very rarely have long-lasting careers. From Manute Bol, Sean Bradley, Sabonis, all the way to Mark Eaton. All those players in their primes are outstanding players. But the thing is, their primes were very limited and sometimes even cut off. The best example of this recently is Yao Ming, as Yao, even as a rookie, was a beast and on track to one of the greatest bigs of all time. And for 7 solid years, this guy was an all-star every single year. But one foot injury, just one big-time injury, ended his career and stopped all of that. Now, for Wembanyama, he's more of a lanky, tall guy, not a sedentary guy like Yao Ming, but the same thing still applies. When you're that big, foot injuries, leg injuries, and just lower body injuries are almost a guarantee. Even someone like Kristaps Porzingis, who was dubbed the Unicorn at only 7'3", has been injury prone his entire career. And of course, in last year's draft, one of the top picks, Chet Holmgren, missed his entire rookie season due to a lower body injury. And the best comparison I've seen for Victor was to a guy drafted exactly 40 years before him. That player being Ralph Sampson in '83, who was the first pick to the Houston Rockets. And looking at Ralph, his instant impact to the Rockets was simply amazing, averaging 21 points per game, 11 boards, 2 blocks, on above 50% shooting. Ralph that year played all 82 games and was an all-star. For Victor in 2023-2024, I think that stat line from Ralph is what you'd come to expect. Now, looking at Ralph again as a sophomore, once again played all 82 games and made second team All-NBA. At that point, was one of the best bigs in the game, and in '86 made his first finals appearance. Only 3 years into the NBA, Ralph, at 7'4", was an anomaly nobody'd ever seen. But unfortunately, after '86, he had numerous knee injuries, back injuries, and was plagued his entire career. As after '86, he only played a total of 170 more games, when prior to that, he already played 286. Comparing Ralph Sampson 40 years ago to Wembanyama, I think is the closest thing to a one-to-one comparison. And I don't mean to be a downer or be negative, but once again, looking at these big guys, injuries historically always happen. I don't wish it happens, but it's a fact and reality for these 7'5" centers. Also, one thing I do want to clear up, when it comes to expectations and hype, you gotta temper them at least a little bit. As some people in the media already are saying if Wembanyama isn't Hakeem Olajuwon, Anthony Davis, or Kevin Durant, that career will be a disappointment and a failure. Look, for Spurs fans who post Tim Duncan have been basically in hibernation, if they get Hakeem 2.0, trust me, they'll be fine with that. And looking at his stats over in Paris, very similar to Ralph Sampson, 22 points per game, 10 boards, 3 blocks, all near 50% shooting. Given the Western Conference, I think Wembanyama next year could easily be an all-star at the forward or the center position. And just like Mobley 2 years ago, who nearly made second-team all-defense, I think Victor as a rookie has an amazing shot of accomplishing that feat. Now, looking at the actual Spurs team, I've watched a lot of Spurs games this year, mainly because of Keldon Johnson. But looking past him at their overall roster, they got some pieces and some really good young talent. Of course, Johnson, a primary scorer, Devin Vassell, I think who's their best player right now, other than Wembanyama, Trey Jones, a classic point guard, and Sohan, who's a bundle of energy and a do-it-all forward. Adding Victor to that mix, with a well-rounded bench, plus Popovich, I mean, at minimum, play-in tournament should be this team's goal. And for Spurs players, the Spurs organization, look at Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu, Tony Parker. All these guys in varying degrees had the same demeanor and the same attitude. And for Popovich, much like Bill Belichick, he treated the stars the exact same as the 12th man. It takes special players to be quote-unquote Spurs players. And listen to Wembanyama, just the way he talks about the game, his future, his overall play style, he sounds very Spurs-esque. And from all signs I can see, unlike someone like Zion Williamson, Victor is committed to the game and being a winner very, very soon. And speaking of Zion once again, just for hypothetical sake, imagine him out of New Orleans and in San Antonio. Do you think Zion under Pop is pulling all this nonsense being out of shape and always being hurt? I highly doubt it. That's why Victor going to the Spurs is such a big blessing for the NBA. And like I said earlier in the video, when it comes to hype and expectations, you gotta temper them at least slightly. And when I look at someone like Tim Duncan compared to Wembanyama, both these guys being Spurs, seemingly unselfish players. If Wembanyama for his career never averages 27, 25 points, he's around that 22, 23 range, or being the best defender in the league, that is still success for the first overall pick. And like many of you guys know, playing in a Spurs system, it's not one guy dribbling 25 times or jacking up 25 shots. Wembanyama in San Antonio is going to play winning basketball from day one. And I think offensively speaking, it'll take some time to adapt, but defensively, the shot block and the IQ, just the overall mobility, will transfer seamlessly. And in regards to the NBA media, I think Wembanyama's attitude towards the hype, once again, is perfect for the Spurs. Let ESPN, Fox Sports, NBA TV say everything they've got to say. All that matters is that Wembanyama on the court is impactful and a winning player. If he wins, just bottom line, wins for the Spurs, nobody cares if he's Hakeem Olajuwon, Anthony Davis, or Kevin Durant. In San Antonio, winning is the bottom line and how you're measured on an all-time scale. Now, to wrap this video up, of course, I have some big-time concerns with Victor, his overall health and durability, but from what I've seen as an individual player, his skill set, his shooting, his shot making, shot blocking. At the worst, he's Rudy Gobert 2.0. At his best, he's a mix of Ralph Sampson, Kevin Durant, and a Giannis on defense. If they get that player, that hybrid in San Antonio, the Spurs dynasty yet again will be revived and compete for championships in no time. And just like Tim Duncan 25 years prior, I think Victor instantly is a winning player and all-star caliber dude. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.